Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 20 favourite movies from 1992. These are all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and again, these are just my top 20 personal favourite movies. No right or wrong to this. It's just my opinion on the movies I enjoyed the most from this year. So that being said, I'm going to get into a few honourable mentions. I'm going to rattle off these quite quickly because some of the videos lately have been running on for a bit too long, so I'm going to try and get through these as quickly as possible. So first up, first honourable mention is Steven Seagal in Under Siege. Got it in this 2-pack here with the second one. Arguably for me, Steven Seagal's most competent movie. You've got Gary Busey and Tommy Lee Jones in there as well as the villains. Just a really, really good action movie. Pretty much Die Hard on a boat. Can't forget that cake scene as well with the stripper. But yeah, really, really good fun action film. Next honourable mention for me is Juice with Tupac Shakur. Great sort of heist movie that sort of gets out of hand and gets a bit out of control. Next honourable mention for me is The Lawnmower Man. I really dig this movie. Got a lot of really good themes and ideas to it. A lot of the CG in it does not hold up at all by today's standards, but as I said, the themes and ideas this movie has are really, really go somewhere and are really the film's saving grace. Performance by the lead as well, who plays Job the Lawnmower Man, absolutely fantastic arc to this character in this film. You got Pierce Brosnan in there as well. Yeah, just this really, really interesting movie, but as I said, CGI doesn't hold up at all. Next honourable mention for me is The Hand That Rocked the Cradle. Really creepy, tense thriller in this. Standout performance for me in this film is Ernie Hudson. He's so good in this film. Check this one out if you've not seen it. Next honourable mention for me is Whoopi Goldberg in Sister Act. I've got it in this 2-pack here with the second one. Just a great little comedy that's on Disney Plus. Yeah, just Whoopi Goldberg, pretty much her boyfriend kills someone and she's witness to the murder, but she has to go sort of under the Witness Protection Act, and they end up putting her in as a nun, pretty much, keep her safe, and she ends up sort of becoming the leader of this choir, and they end up performing for the Pope at the end of the film. But yeah, just a really, really enjoyable, light-hearted comedy. Next honourable mention for me is One False Move with Billy Bob Thornton and the late great Bill Paxton. Really, really good, underrated film, this one. Really tense thriller with some disturbing scenes in it. Check it out if you've not seen it. Next honourable mention for me is the foreign Belgian film, Man Bites Dog. Oh my god, this film is just, it's terrifying and horrific. It pretty much follows a murderer who is being followed and documented by this documentary film crew, and how he goes around killing people and how he gets away with murdering them. And I know when this film first came out, a lot of people sort of walked out of it because they didn't really know if it was real or not. That's how realistic this film is. It's super, super disturbing the way he kills some people. He ends up killing this old woman in her house purely by shouting at her because he noticed that heart tablets were on the table, so he knew she had a weak heart, and he just shouted at her, and it sent her into like a cardiac arrest, and he just leaves her there to die. Scene as well where he talks about how he was on this construction site and he murdered these two Muslims, and he buried them there facing Mecca. And the scene at the end as well where he murders a kid, and he talks about, oh, kids are really, really tough to murder. I've only murdered like a handful of them. It's just really, really disturbing stuff to listen to. But if you've got the stomach for it, check it out. It is fantastic, but it didn't just quite make the list for me. Next honourable mention for me is Split Second with Rutger Hauer. Really, really good sci-fi movie. This it sort of follows this cop who's trying to get leads and revenge on someone that murdered his partner. But it leads to this a sort of twist ending I didn't expect. But it's again, it's just a fantastic sci-fi movie. When we find out who the killer actually is at the end, I was just blown away by it. It's really cool. But yeah, if you can find this film, check it out. Next honorable mention for me is Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel. Really good performance from him in this, and a really sort of shocking ending. Yeah, just this really gritty movie. A great character study as well. Next honorable mention for me is Harrison Ford in Patriot Games. The great sort of little action movie, this. The second Jack Ryan film. It's pretty much a sequel to Hunt for Red October, which came out a few years prior to this. Yeah, really good. Sean Bean is in it as well. He's great in everything he's in. Yeah, just really good action film. Next honorable mention for me is River Runs Through It with Brad Pitt. Really good sort of period drama, this one. Really enjoyed it. Next honorable mention for me is Rapid Fire with the late great Brandon Lee and the late great Powers Booth. Two actors that I absolutely adore. Obviously Brandon Lee from The Crow, and Powers Booth, who first sort of came to my attention when he played the villain in Sudden Death with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and the villain in Tombstone as well. But yeah, I think a lot of more modern audiences will know him from Nashville. But he sadly passed away after that, and he's also in the 2012 Avengers as well. But yeah, this was just a great action movie, and one of the few gems we got from Brandon Lee. Next honorable mention for me is The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. It's a great sort of love story that develops between Whitney Houston, who plays this pop star, and Kevin Costner, who's their bodyguard. And great sort of kick-ass soundtrack as well from Whitney Houston in this. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Not a great film, but entertaining none the least. You can still get there's good quality in it. Next honourable mention for me is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Obviously this film came out before the critically acclaimed TV series, which I've not seen, but I really dig the film. I know the film's sort of the black sheep to some of the Buffy fans, but I actually really enjoyed it. Rutger Hauer is the villain as well. Just don't turn your nose up at this if you are a fan of the show. I know, don't expect the show sort of quality to this. I think it was sort of Joss Whedon's first attempt at Buffy before we sort of got it down with the show, but I still enjoy the film. I still think it's quite good. Next honorable mention for me is Basic Instinct, Paul Verhoeven, directing again, just really good, over the top sort of crime movie with Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone. Really entertaining. Next honorable mention for me is A League of Their Own. Really good baseball movie with an absolutely fantastic cast. Gina Davis, Tom Hanks, Madonna. Yeah, just a really good baseball movie. Next honourable mention for me is Unlawful Entry with Kurt Russell and Ray Liotta. Really good, creepy, tense movie, this one. Sort of follows this couple who get their house broken into by someone, and they call the police, and they sort of end up befriending the cop, played by Ray Liotta, who's like puts all this security system in place for them. And he sort of tracks down the burglar and beats him up and says to Kurt Russell, "Go on, you know you want to beat him up." And Kurt Russell's like, "I don't want to do this. It gets really out of hand and really tense." And Ray Liotta just sort of ends up starting off as their friend and becoming their enemy. Really good, tense movie. Next honourable mention for me is Sneakers. Great sort of little espionage movie, this, but with an absolutely fantastic cast. You got Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd, Mary McDonnell, Ben Kingsley, and one of his last roles, River Phoenix. Just an absolutely fantastic cast and a great little movie. Next honourable mention for me is Strictly Ballroom by Baz Luhrmann. My favourite Baz Luhrmann movie by far. I don't really like any of his other films. This one for me is I believe this is his first, and I regard it as his best. Pretty much follows this ballroom competition that's coming up, but there's this dancer that no one really wants to dance with because he's just a bit of a loose cannon and has his own way. He doesn't play by the rules at all. And he's got like there's a bit of a backstory there about his father as well. But I really, really dug it and thought it was really, really good. Really, really entertaining. My last honourable mention from this year is Glen Ross. What a cast to this film. Great premise as well about sort of these real estate agents working for this company, and they're told that by the end of the week they will be firing everyone apart from the top two agents that get the most sales. Fantastic cast. You got Kevin Spacey, Ed Harris, Al Pacino, Alec Baldwin and Jack Lemmon. Really, really dug this one, but nearly made the list for me, but I couldn't quite get it on there. There was just too many movies that I enjoyed more. So yeah, they're all my honourable mentions. So I'm going to get straight into the list now and kick it off with number 20, and that for me is The Player. Not a movie I enjoyed the first time I saw it. Second time I watched it, I just dug it a lot more. It's pretty much a great movie. It's sort of set in Hollywood. It's like not quite a film noir, but it's got that sort of vibe to it. So we follow pretty much Tim Robbins, who's this movie producer, and he ends up killing Vincent D'Onofrio's character, and the film's pretty much about him trying not to get found out. But yeah, this film's got pretty much everyone in it, everyone you can possibly imagine. Just when you think you've seen everyone in it, they throw more actors at you. It's just absolutely insane. But a great one by Robert Altman as well. I really, really dug this one. Check it out if you've not seen it. So coming up at the number 19 spot for me is Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. Al Pacino took home his first Oscar in the lead role for this film. It sort of follows a student played by Chris O'Donnell who ends up, for extra credit, spending time with a veteran who's blind. Sort of ends up caring for him, looking after him. But we find out a bit more about Al Pacino's backstory, who's the veteran, and he sort of has this other agenda which he wants to sort of carry out while he's with this carer. At least some really, really good acting and some really upsetting stuff, but it is a fantastic film. Just a great one from Al Pacino. So coming up next for me at the number 18 spot is Last of the Mohicans with Daniel Day-Lewis. It's a really good war film with some absolutely fantastic scenes. Pretty much takes place between the war that took place in colonial America between Britain and France. Just got some absolutely fantastic cinematography in it, this film, and some great fight sequences, great set pieces. Really, really draws you in and makes you feel as if you're in the film. Yeah, just absolutely fantastic war film. Really, really loved it. It's coming up next for me at the number 17 spot is Woody Allen's Husbands and Wives. What a fantastic drama film. Sort of follows two couples that are very, very different. One couple's got a relationship that's pretty much thriving and couldn't be better, and the other couple are pretty much on the brink of divorce. They just can't really stand each other, want to sort of see other people. But by the end of the film, both couples are in a very, very different place from when we first met them and first started. Just a really good, interesting character study on sort of married life and different couples. Really, really enjoyed it. One of Woody Allen's best, in my opinion. Coming up next for me At the number 16 spot is Spike Lee's Malcolm X. Hands down, Denzel Washington's best performance. Yeah, really, really dug this film. Didn't really know much about Malcolm X until I actually saw this film. I actually watched earlier today the One Night in Miami film, which also features Malcolm X in it. But yeah, just a fantastic biopic by Spike Lee, one of his best films. Again, got an absolutely mesmerising performance out of Denzel Washington. Superb in this film. I'd say if you don't really know much about Malcolm X, check the film out. It's really, really good. Just another fantastic biopic film. I really, really dug it. I can't recommend this one highly enough. Just great. So coming up next for me, at the number 15 spot, is Neil Jordan's The Crying Game. Probably one of the greatest twists in film history again in this film. It's up there with Fight Club and Empire Strikes Back in terms of twists, and The Sixth Sense as well. Wasn't expecting it at all. So the premise of the film pretty much follows the IRA who've kidnapped this British soldier played by Forrest Whitaker, who sort of ends up befriending one of his captors. I think it's called the Stockholm Syndrome. And they sort of end up... he ends up escaping, but before he escapes, he says to the captive who he befriends, he tells him about his love and how he says, if you find her, look after her and for me and tell her I love her and all this. So the captive ends up going to England to find her, and he ends up sort of falling in love with her and forming a romance with her. But that's all I'm going to say on the film, because to say any more will spoil it, and it does lead to an absolutely fantastic twist that I did not see coming. The movie just holds up to this day, I think, because of it as well. Just a really good investing film. If you like twists, to be surprised in films, to think a film's going one way and it completely goes in another direction, check this one out. I massively enjoyed it. So coming up next for me, at the number 14 spot, is A Few Good Men. Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, and this great sort of military courtroom drama. Jack Nicholson is just fucking on point in this film. One of my favourite performances by him. Again, another film I did not like the first time I saw it. It grew on me. Second time I saw it, I absolutely loved it. I sort of ended up seeing this film pretty much the same time as I saw Jerry Maguire and Rain Man. Watching sort of back-to-back Tom Cruise movies, but this one just sort of went over my head a lot. But I really, really do appreciate it now and love it for what it is. As I said, it's just a great courtroom military drama. Got the famous can't handle the truth scene. Jack Nicholson's performance is just second to none. Just really, really good. If you're looking for like a courtroom drama and you've got like a couple of hours to kill, check this one out. It's fantastic. So coming up next for me, at the number 13 spot, is a film based on a book that I studied at GCSE at school, and that's Of Mice and Men. I actually watched this film at school as well. John Malkovich and Gary Sinise, who also directed the film as well. Pretty much follows these two out-of-work workers who want to sort of get themselves the American dream, make enough money to buy their own place and live off the land. Lenny and George are the two characters, and you've got Gary Sinise's character who's very much wants to work, and you've got John Malkovich he's a bit slow and struggles to keep up and sort of holds his friend back. Leads to it leads them into getting into all kinds of trouble, which just escalates and gets worse and worse for them. It leads to a really, really upsetting ending. But it's just a very heartbreaking ending to the film. But the build up to it is so good. It's just a really, really good scene, good situation to watch on a film. But yeah, it's fantastic, gorgeous looking film as well. Great characters in there as well. Curly in it, who's just this absolute fucking little prick. He's sort of like the main antagonist of the film. But yeah, it's a really, really good good little film, this. Check it out if you've not seen it. So coming up next for me at the number 12 spot is John Woo's Hard Boiled. Wow, what to say about this film. If Terminator 2 was the best action movie of 1991, this is hands down the best action movie of 1992. What can I say about this film? The film just doesn't stop, doesn't give you a chance to breathe with its action. It just steamrolls for 2 hours with just intense action. Great, fantastic set pieces. The opening scene at the restaurant. You've got it sort of takes place in the first act. The second act, you've got the scene that takes place in the warehouse, and then the third act, you've got the scene that takes place in the hospital. As I said, the film just steamrolls, doesn't give you a chance to breathe. The action is just on point. The editing in the film is absolutely fantastic. Just a great sort of crime drama with this absolute fat injection of action. Oh, it just doesn't stop. It's just absolutely fantastic. There's not really much more to say about it. It's got to be seen to be believed, this film. Absolutely really dug it. One of John Woo's best. Yeah, can't recommend that one enough. So coming up next for me at the number 11 spot is Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, or as it's known in other parts of the world, I think it's called Brain Dead. But yeah, what can I say? This is another over-the-top movie. It basically sort of follows a rat monkey which bites our main protagonist's mother, and she sort of ends up becoming this zombie and infecting all these other people in the town where they live. It just escalates into this absolute chaos. It's one of the goriest films I've ever seen or ever made. When you reach the end of the film, it's like, oh my god, how the fuck did the crew clean the setup? It's just an absolute mess. Yeah, just being the zombie film that it is, it just leads to absolute chaos. Such great creative imaginary elements to this film. Best zombie baby ever in a film, done to perfection in this. It's another film that's got to be seen to be believed. It's so gross, it's just so violent and gory. The title of the goriest film ever made, yeah, is well deserved. It's just insane. I can't really ever see this being broadcast on TV or anything like that. I don't know if it's available on streaming services, but if you can get a copy of it, just sit down and watch it. Don't eat either before or after it. It would just make you feel ill. I remember watching this with a friend from uni, and he just felt so queasy, like getting into it, but he stuck it out. Yeah. Check this one out. It's fantastic. So coming up next for me at the number 10 spot is the film that actually won Best Picture for this year, and that is Unforgiven, directed and starring Clint Eastwood. Pretty much follows a retired, not so much a hitman, but retired sort of gunslinger who gets called back into the game for like one last job, which he can't really resist. In this little town, Gene Hackman is the villain. He's just fucking grumpy bastard in this film, but he's so good. You've got Morgan Freeman in there as well. Richard Harris, great performance from him. I absolutely dug this. Just one of the best sort of westerns from the modern era. Clint Eastwood just really has an eye for it, and it's a shame he doesn't make more westerns. I know he might be probably sick of making them because he's made so many. But he does churn out some good films every now and again in recent times. But this one's one of his best westerns. I think this was sort of one of his last westerns as well. This was like him bowing out of the genre, but it's just absolutely great. The film just looks stunning and it looks gorgeous as well. Great story and well worthy of winning the Oscar. It's fantastic. So coming up next for me at the number 9 spot is My Cousin Vinnie with Joe Pesci. Just a great fun film. Pretty much follows these two kids who are arrested falsely for murdering a store clerk, and pretty much their only option is to get this really, really inexperienced lawyer played by Joe Pesci, who just happens to be one of their cousins. And the film just intrigues you from there with its comedy, with its drama. Great cast as well. Ralph Macchio, probably most famous for playing Danny in The Karate Kid. The stunning Marissa Tomei. Joe Pesci coming off of Home Alone and Goodfellas to do this, great. And Fred Gwynne as well as the judge, probably most famous for playing Herman Munster in The Munsters. And he was also in Pet Sematary as well. Just a great, great fun film. Marissa Tomei also won the Oscar as well for supporting actress. But yeah, just a fun film. Massively, massively enjoyed it. Joe Pesci's performance in it is great as well. Absolutely love this one. Coming up next for me at the number 8 spot is Death Becomes Her by Robert Zemeckis. I absolutely love this film. Film's probably appears on a lot of people's worst lists from this year, but I absolutely really dig it, really love it. The chemistry between the three main leads is just on point. The premise to it is pretty much about two friends played by Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn who just hate each other deep down, but on the surface sort of have to pretend they like each other, and they sort of fight over Melvin, played by Bruce Willis, who's this plastic surgeon in Hollywood. And they sort of both end up taking this potion which makes them immortal and they can't die. But there are certain rules to taking the potion. Is like you can have so many years in the public eye of unchanged beauty, but then once that time's up, you have to retire, never to be seen again. Played by the woman who gives him the potion as well, played by Isabella Rossellini. Just great chemistry between all the cast. Often appears as well on lists of worst Robert Zemeckis films, who did Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Forrest Gump. This is up there for me. It's enjoyable. It's just a harmless, fun film. It's the funniest Bruce Willis has ever been, in my opinion. You can tell he's just having a ball with the role and just enjoying it. He's just having a really good time. The effects in it just hold up as well. Great sort of third act fight scene between Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn, where they're both trying to kill each other but can't because they've taken this potion, which makes them immortal. The ending to it as well is so bittersweet, but it's hilarious all at the same time. I just really dug this movie. I grew up watching this. I had it on a VHS tape. I taped off the telly, and I had this on it, and I had Wayne's World straight afterwards. With another film that I'm going to get into on this list as well. But yeah, I just dig this movie. It's just a ton of fun. The actors in it are just enjoying what they're doing, and I really dig it. It's just harmless fun. Yeah, I'm recommending it. Check it out if you can find a copy of it. So coming up next for me, at the number 7 spot, is Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. Yeah, great crime movie, this one, and a great first film from Tarantino. Pretty much follows 6 criminals who have been brought together to carry out this heist. They all have sort of secret identities. They're all given separate names. One's, they're all given names like Mr. Blonde, Mr. Pink, Mr. Blue, Mr. Brown, Mr. White, Mr. Orange. And they aren't really to tell anyone each other's names or anything like that. But to carry out, the chemistry between them is so good. The opening scene at the cafe is it's so one of the best scenes in the film for me, where they're discussing the proper true meaning behind Madonna's Like a Virgin and what it really means. You got Mr. Pink as well, who's such a fucking tight ass. Just won't fucking tip the waitresses at this restaurant. It's just and it causes a commotion between them. It's like, well, when they're counting the money at the end, and he's like, who didn't tip? And he's like, oh, Mr. Pink. Well, why? And he's like, he doesn't believe in it. What do you mean you don't believe in it? It's like, it just leads to just some great, fantastic dialogue. That just really cracks me up. Mr. Blonde in this as well is just absolutely terrifying. The scene as well, the interrogation scene with the police officer, it ends up cutting his ear off and covering him in gasoline. Just absolutely terrifying. And then you've got Tim Roth as well as Mr. Orange. I won't get into too much spoilers there, but his character sort of has this really good arc. But yeah, just a great first outing from Tarantino as writer-director. Massively dug this one. Yeah, can't check it out. Can't recommend it enough for you to check out. Absolutely great. So coming up next for me, at the number 6 spot, is Chaplin by Richard Attenborough. My all-time favourite Robert Downey Jr. performance. That was up until Endgame came out. I think he really matched this film with Endgame. But this film is just absolutely phenomenal. It's another biopic similar to Malcolm X, but it follows Charlie Chaplin, played by Robert Downey Jr. in this absolutely well-directed film. Well cast as well. Just one of those movies that's on the move, very transient. It doesn't stay in the same place for too long. Constantly on the move with its storytelling. Yeah, as I said, great cast. You've got John Thor, David Duchovny, James Woods, Anthony Hopkins, Marissa Tomei as well, which sort of sees her and Robert Downey Jr. Together before they were in Spider-Man. I think they were in a couple of films together as well before that. But that's what I remember them from. I remember them being in this, and then remember them being in Spider-Man Homecoming. But yeah, just another fantastic biopic. Probably my favourite scene is when Chaplin's actually sort of in this costume room, and he's picking out his look for how he wants his character, the tramp, to look. And sort of all the props that speak to him just sort of come alive and just fits together so well. I didn't have any idea as well. Charlie Chaplin had so many kids. I think he had about 8 kids as well. But yeah, I think he had 4 different wives as well. Just absolutely insane. Insane life. But yeah, absolutely dug it. I didn't know as well, he also wrote the song Smile. Really big song that he wrote. Just a massively really good biopic film. Underrated in my opinion. Yeah, again, just another one I've got to recommend, and can't check out. That's why it's so high up on the list for me. Really, really dug it. It's one of those films I just find myself that I keep coming back to every so often to rewatch, because there's just things in it I miss. Dan Aykroyd's great in the film as well as the sort of this big shot director that sort of gives Chaplin his first sort of break. But yeah, check this one out. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So coming up next to me at the number 5 spot is a childhood staple of mine. That is Disney's Aladdin. Yeah, if you've probably already seen this film, it's just a masterpiece of animation. Single-handedly the greatest casting in terms of voiceover for a character ever, in Robin Williams as the genie. Oh my god, just talk about someone just being allowed to bring what they want to bring to the role. Oh, just absolutely fantastic. Gilbert Godfrey as well as Iago is hilarious as Jafar's sort of sidekick parrot. But yeah, premise to the film, not to get into it in too much detail, but it pretty much follows Aladdin, who's sort of homeless and poor and lives on the streets. Sort of gets tricked into retrieving a lamp from the Cave of Wonders, gets betrayed by Jafar, and then ends up rubbing the lamp and befriending this genie. Who sort of helps him sort of become a better person. But yeah, it's just a fantastic Disney film, childhood staple of mine. Robin Williams is phenomenal in this. Yeah, just can't. Another film that I can't recommend. You've probably already seen this though. If you've seen it, check it out again. Some of the jokes just really went over my head as a child because of the pop cultural references, but as an adult, they just make me laugh harder now. Yeah, check this one out. So coming up at the number 4 spot for me is another childhood staple of mine, another Disney film. That is The Muppets Christmas Carol. I watch this film a couple of times a year at Christmas time. I absolutely love it. My favourite interpretation of Charles Dickens' book. Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge, fantastic. Yeah, what can I say? One of the best story arcs in literature and cinema for a character with Ebenezer Scrooge. I absolutely love it. So to get into the premise, it's the classic tale. Ebenezer Scrooge, grumpy dick, just is miserable and wants to make life miserable for everyone else. Gets visited on Christmas Eve in the night by 3 spirits to sort of change his ways, and of course that's what happens, and the film ends with this big happy ending. But even when you know what's going to happen, this version of it just keeps me coming back for more. I absolutely love it. This is the DVD. I still have my VHS copy, but the DVD has one of the songs cut out of it. I think it's because the filmmakers just decided that song just doesn't fit with the pacing of the film anymore, so they just decided to completely cut it out. I don't know if it's left in on the Disney Plus version, but luckily I still have my VHS copy of it, which does still have that scene intact. But I actually quite like that song. It's not a bad song. I think it fits in perfectly well and is organic to the story, but for some reason the filmmakers just decided to take it out. But yeah, just a fun family film. Yeah, check this one out if you've not seen it. So coming up next for me at the number 3 spot is the second film that was on that tape with Death Becomes Her, and that for me is Wayne's World. I absolutely dig this film. It's hilarious. Yeah, absolutely fantastic comedy with Mike Myers. Based on his sort of characters from SNL, he sort of brought them to the first feature film. Yeah, it's just pretty much follows this guy called Wayne, who's got his TV show that he does in his parents' basement, and the TV show actually ends up getting picked up by a bigger network, and things don't really go to plan. We meet Wayne, who ends up getting his girlfriend, played by the gorgeous Tia Carrera. And it sort of all falls to shit with him. He loses his girl, he loses his show, he loses his best friend, and the film ends on this really, really high note. It ends on such a good note as well, with the multiple endings it has. Just massively, massively entertaining and funny as hell. I actually like the sequel more than this one. I'll get into that in the video for the next year, but yeah, the sequel for me, I think, is far superior. But not to take away from the first film, I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it. The Bohemian Rhapsody scene as well is absolutely iconic. For Wayne's World, just hilarious. Great music, great soundtrack, great acting, great humour. Rob Lowe is the villain as well. Absolutely fantastic. Great characters in it as well. This is where I knew Ed O'Neill from as well, from Modern Family. In these movies, yeah, just a great comedy with great music and great acting. Absolutely loved it. So coming up next to me at the number 2 spot is Tim Burton's sequel to Batman, and that's Batman Returns. Just what a fucking dark turn this franchise took with this film. Some people say Tim Burton went too far with it. You can argue that, yeah, with Danny DeVito as the Penguin, but it's one of the best portrayals of a superhero villain, in my opinion. He's absolutely great in this film. Michael Keaton's phenomenal in it as well. I love some of the scenes with him in. Michelle Pfeiffer in it as well as Selena Kyle, who eventually becomes Catwoman. Christopher Walken as well as Max Schreck. Oh, he's fantastic in this film. Got all those Walken-isms you'd expect him to have. Just great. Really sort of underrated film to watch at Christmas as well. Yeah, just really good. Danny DeVito is the Penguin. Wow, what they did with this character was just so dark. They just took it to mean places. The nose biting scene just terrified me as a child. Like, oh my god, like I couldn't believe it. There's times when I watch this film again with people and they just jump and cringe at that scene. It's absolutely fantastic. And of course, the backstory to the Penguin, that he was this child that was deformed, so his parents pretty much decided to get rid of him by chucking him down the sewer. It's really sad. And he has a great line where it says, I was the number 1 son, but they treated me like number 2. It's a great double meaning to that. Yeah, fantastic scorers in this as well by Danny Elfman. It just sort of takes the score from the first film and elevate it to that next level. Yeah, just a really good superhero movie. I know the storyline and the turn of the movie sort of puts a lot of people off, just how dark it is, but that never really bothered me. There's a few continuity technical errors in the film which are very, very noticeable, like i.e. when Batman takes his cowl off and the eye makeup just disappears. It's very noticeable. But again, I'm not going to hold that to the movies. I'm not going to not watch this film again just because of that. But yeah, it's just great casting, great performances, terrifying performance from Danny DeVito, and terrifying agenda he has at the end of the film, to pretty much kidnap and murder all these kids. But yeah, it's just great. I remember watching this film back to back with the first one at the cinema a few years ago. Great experience. Yeah, just absolutely fantastic film. I dig it a lot. It's another childhood staple for me that probably shouldn't have been a childhood staple. But yeah, Just to get into the production on this as well, caused a lot of uproar with McDonald's because they expected this film to sort of be like kid friendly, it being Batman, because I know the animated series was pretty much launched at the same time as this film, and McDonald's were like pretty shocked to sit down and watch the film and be like, well, we can't associate this with our Happy Meals. But of course, you know, the toys and the Happy Meals should be the byproduct of the movie, not the other way around. The movie shouldn't be, which is what the case was with Batman and Robin. The film just totally missed the mark. But yeah, this for me, it's one of Tim Burton's most underrated films for me, and I absolutely adore it. I watch this film probably a couple of times a year, back to back with the first one. I actually don't mind Batman Forever as well. Batman and Robin I watched purely for hilarious entertainment reasons, as awful as that film is. But yeah, this one's really, really good. As I said, I know it's got a bit of a reputation for being the black sheep, but by no means is this an awful film. I absolutely adore it. Great follow-up to the first one, in my opinion. Just check the two of them out if you've not seen it. So that leads me into my number one pick from this year. Probably some people saying this might think, really, that's your number one pick? It's not really a masterpiece, but to me it is. I absolutely adore this film. I know it can be very underwhelming to some people, this movie, but I absolutely love it, and it's Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Phenomenal cast to this to get into. You've got Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, who I absolutely love, Keanu Reeves, Anthony Hopkins, Billy Campbell from The Rocketeer, Kerry Ellis from The Princess Bride. Tom Waits is in there as well as Renfield, and you've got Richard E. Grant, who's also in there as well. It's my favourite version of Dracula. It's probably just above the Bela Lugosi one for me, which I really, really do enjoy as well. But yeah, I love the tale to this film is just fantastic. It's pretty much Dracula who was sort of betrayed by the Turkish, which led to the love of his life committing suicide because she believed that he was dead and he died in war. But he comes back and says, you know, I renounce my faith in God. I'm going to come back. I'm going to rise from the grave and come back after death. And many, many years later, we meet Jonathan, played by Keanu Reeves, who, to his credit, he does an alright job in this film. The accent's awful, but his acting's good. The accent's awful. Granted, that's the worst part of the film. He can't do an English accent, but it doesn't take me too far out of the film. But he's in love with Mina, who he's yet to marry, played by Winona Ryder, who Dracula ends up seeing, and he's just completely mesmerised by her, and he's like, I've travelled oceans of time to find you, and she remembers him from her past. She's like, I know your face, I know who you are. It's just a fantastic, unconventional love story that I am an absolute sucker for. Gary Oldman in this is absolutely phenomenal as Dracula. I absolutely love it. You've got Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing as well. He's great in this movie. Standout scene for me is when Mina's friend becomes a vampire. It just leads to this absolutely terrifying scene where she's walking down the stairs carrying this baby. It's horrific. It's the stuff of nightmares. But yeah, this for me as well was a sort of a reconciliation between Winona Ryder and Francis Ford Coppola, because it didn't work out on Godfather 3, which was supposed to feature Winona Ryder. So this was them sort of making up for that, doing this film. I know a lot of people criticise this film as it's got so much going for it, but it just feels as if it falls short. It's got a phenomenal cast. It's got a phenomenal director behind it. It's based on a phenomenal book. But the film just comes across as a little underwhelming. And I can sort of see that. I can sort of see why people think that. But for me, it just ticks all those tropes that I absolutely love. I just dug it so much. The opening score to this as well, where we get a narration from Anthony Hopkins telling the story behind the war, which Dracula was part of. I absolutely thought was fantastic. The ending to it as well just ends on this a bit of a sour note for me. It's really, really sad from Dracula's point of view. Like, I know Dracula is meant to be seen as the villain and this monster, but he isn't really. He's someone who you understand the motivation there, and you understand you understand why he does what he's doing, and why he's in love with with Mina, because that was his love from his past life. I just absolutely dug and fell in love with everything about this film. I'm not going to say it's Francis Ford Coppola's best film, because that could easily fall to Godfather 1 or 2, but it's high up there for me. Again, it's just my personal opinion, and I just love it. It's, as I said, I can see why a lot of people don't think this is a great film. But for me, I just absolutely dug it and loved it so much. Check it out. I fully recommend it if you can find the film. It's my favourite from this year. It's the film I come back to the most from this year when I'm looking for a serious film. I just dug it so much. One of my favourite from this year. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to leave the video there and say, just thanks very much for watching. If you think there's any films that I've missed out on, just leave them in the comments. Or if you've enjoyed the video, please like it and please subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time for my next video, which is going to feature my top 30 favourite films from 1993. Fuck me, that year churned out so many good films. My God. It was so hard to narrow down that year. But yeah, I'll get into that in another video, and in the next video. So yeah, I'm just going to say thanks very much for watching, and take care.